Badger Politics. I'm Scott Stearns.
My name is Paul Sickle. Good evening. And we are definitely from an undisclosed location.
Oh, now more than ever.
Yeah, did you see the thing about DOJ, the Department of Justice, coming after the people who signed up to go to the January 20th women's protests or the disrupt January 20th protests?
Yeah, there's some scary stuff going on. The Justice Department is demanding 1.3 million IP addresses related to this Trump resistance site, and they are requesting this from DreamHost.
Right.
And so it's tied up in court right now. They're fighting it, thankfully, on First Amendment grounds. But that is a scary thing, and it should set off alarm
more
bells.
than First Amendment. I mean, it's a foundation of the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
It's a right to free speech and
free assembly, and
both of them.
That is a scary thing, and that should send chills.
Well, it almost makes me think that I don't want to do a podcast anymore because I'm afraid that some Trump goon squad will come down and hunt me down and throw me in prison for the rest of my life.
Well, I mean,
we're doing dissent, offering a dissenting opinion.
It's definitely one of those things where it's serving the purpose of hey, maybe I should back off and not get involved.
Well, don't you think that's their point?
Of course it is, because they don't know that this is gonna. They probably don't even think they're gonna be able to do it. But it's sending a message that
right.
hey, you got a family, you got a house, you got a good job.
Right.
Maybe you should keep.
Maybe you don't mind dying, but maybe your family does.
Right.
I mean, that's a fucking scary thing. I mean, I think it's time we start calling it the Trump-Pence program.
Yeah. Just
in case it comes to that. So we're talking tonight. It is the 15th of August.
Yes.
And we've seen a number of existential threats to what any of us would consider to be America or a free society in the last few weeks. Only escalating over the last several days into a point where we have a president almost celebrating Nazi extremists as they rally, which does really harken back to the early 30s. In Germany, and it's I don't know enough about my Italian fascist history, but all I know is that this is as uncomfortable as I've ever been living in this country, and I've lived all 40 of my years in this country.
It's really, I never thought I would witness a U.S. president behaving in such a fashion. So we all know the tragedy that occurred over the weekend in Charlottesville.
The terrorist attack
yes.
that occurred, that mowed down an innocent civilian who simply was expressing her constitutional rights.
Yep.
That led to, frankly, the crash of two law enforcement officers who were integral to the homeland security of the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Absolutely.
And they got in a crash. I mean, this Nazi protest led to the deaths of 3 people in Virginia this weekend.
No, and it was awful. And there was numerous other injuries and people that were beaten. And so the initial statement that the president put out was, that there was
equivocal,
right? It was moral equivalency. That there was hatred and bigotry. We condemn this on many sides, and then
ridiculous.
And then he's obviously received a lot of criticism from Republicans and Democrats over the few days,
right.
A couple days, and then yesterday he comes out.
No, it was today. Yesterday.
Yesterday he came out and had to issue a more pointed statement about white supremacy.
Thing.
Right. Well, it was obviously a prepared statement, and there had been enough of antagonization of him probably behind the scenes that he realized he had to do something to kind of change the narrative. So he did that yesterday.
Totally undid anything he did that was reasonable on Monday.
Today, yeah,
or almost yesterday.
Where he went out a tirade against the media and talked about how they're not reporting all the violence on the quote-unquote alt-left, which I guess is a new term that he just invented. Mm-hmm. So that's a thing. And there's this moral equivalency now.
He also basically said that the people protesting the Nazis had no right to do so.
Yeah,
and which is
because
really,
they didn't have a permit.
Okay,
is that what it was?
So I mean, we still have people who fought and next to people who died fighting the Nazis.
Yeah.
Still alive, and some of them are still able to speak. I mean, they're getting much older today, and I think Trump thinks he can get away with this because he knows that very few of them are left. But I would really like to hear from someone who helped fight the Nazis, Warren was part of the 82nd Airborne. For instance, there was a guy wearing an 82nd Airborne hat at one of those stupid Nazi rallies. And I'd like to hear from them and say, what do you think of the president saying that the people fighting against the Nazis in the streets of America today are, the moral equivalent of the Nazis?
Yeah,
I mean, you and hundreds of thousands of other Americans died or fought against, and hundreds of thousands of your brothers and sisters did die fighting against.
The 82nd Airborne actually did put out a statement. about that.
I heard that.
Yeah.
It was a little convoluted, but they were pissed off. I could tell that.
Well, I mean,
it wasn't. I would say it was unequivocal, but it wasn't exactly.
It was something to the extent of anyone can purchase a hat, and valor is earned, that kind of thing. So,
no, I would like to just hear what more of them would say.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not really something easy to do.
No.
I can speak though for my grandfather who fought in World War II. Mm-hmm. I think it would be. He may be turning over his grave right now.
I think there are probably many.
I mean, and he's been in his grave for 30-some years. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he was, he was suspicious of Reagan. I don't know what he would think of Trump.
Oh yeah, I mean, both of my grandfathers served in the war as well, and I mean, it's just the fact that this is taking place. It's one thing, yeah, fine. Say it's free speech. Call it out. What bad speech can be answered by opposition speech. All that stuff, but to have the president of the United States,
you have to leave.
Basically certify this as legitimate. I mean, he said it today. He said there were very fine people on both sides.
Yeah.
At the Charlottesville white supremacist rally. I mean, really?
Actually,
fine people on both sides?
No, he spoke in favor of sedition today.
It's right.
He's the president of the United States who spoke in favor of sedition. He talked about how they're tearing down now the Robert E. Lee statue. Mm-hmm. And then what's next? George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. He was criticizing people for tearing down the statue of a leader of a rebel government that threatened to overthrow the United States of America.
Absolutely. That's what it was.
These stars and stripes were never, there's a reason they had stars and bars. They were never Robert E. Lee's flag.
Yeah.
Robert E. Lee made a choice to join the Confederacy, and he did that. And
Stonewall Jackson, a lot of them.
We're relitigating the Civil War here.
We are.
And this is, I mean,
in this day and age,
this
is what it's come to. That we have to go over this stuff again. And play this stuff back out and make people realize that are defending these folks that these were people.
These aren't Americans.
No, they were treasonous individuals.
They were trying to destroy America.
Yes,
America won.
Yep,
and that's what set up America to help win World War I for the Allies.
Yeah,
that's what set up America to win World War II and defeat Nazism once and for all. That's what set up America to help defeat the Cold War enemy. That's what set up America to even help inspire the Arab Spring and work with, to end bin Laden's threat to this country. I mean, that's what set up America to be the first country that elected a minority head of state among Western countries. I mean, it was the this is a great country, and these people are completely against it. Robert E. Lee was a rebel against it.
Yep.
We have the President of the United States today complaining about people taking down a rebel to his country. Well, he's a man in charge.
And a lot of these, I think this has been lost, although there's been some reporting around it. A lot of these statues and monuments, they didn't go up, in the 1860s and 1870s. These largely went up
during the
20th centuries. They went up in the 1900s, right. Early to mid 1900s, and during the Jim Crow era, as a way of certifying that culture.
It's Jim Crow / KKK era.
Yes.
It was the same thing. And so now a new KKK wants to arise and appropriate tiki torches from a poor company in Menominee Falls that makes them.
I have some in my garage.
Tiki torches are nice. They shouldn't be appropriated to do that.
They're very nice. They keep the mosquitoes away. They provide nice ambiance for your backyard.
It's great. And then these
fuckers gonna come around and give it a bad name.
I'd call them cowards, and they are cowards still.
Absolutely,
they don't have the hood over them, but they're still cowards. One thing I want to ask you about though, Scott, is and this isn't to give any credence to anything Trump says, but what about some of the leftist protesters who wear those face masks?
Yeah,
those bandanas over their faces.
You think it's do you think they should show their faces?
Yep.
Well, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I think if you're going to get out there and make your voice heard, I think you should be willing to put yourself out there. Literally.
I get that it might be a little risky, but these guys, I saw them thing over their faces. They were the ones throwing confetti on the Seattle police and trying to provoke a reaction on Sunday when I was watching that confrontation. And I've seen them around here at our demonstrations here. I actually know people who do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little. Well, I don't think it's cowardly, but I think it's weak.
Well, isn't it the same? It's kind of it's the way to demonstrate while still kind of being a Twitter troll, where you're kind of anonymous behind a keyboard, but you're anonymous in public. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You're not willing to put yourself on the line.
Here's the other thing. I actually think that the other side, the right, the fascists, are infiltrating these groups, and every time I see
it's been shown
somebody on the left at a protest trying to mix things up, turn a little bit more violent, turn a little bit more, let's get a ruckus going.
Yeah.
Every time I see them do that, it's always the guys with the masks, and I wonder which side are they on.
Right.
And they're always white guys, too. I mean, I'm not kidding. They always are. If you're concealing your identity and you're supposedly on the progressive side of tolerance, but then you're trying to fuck with police, and then the next thing you know, you're creating a headline and you're besmirching the entire reputation of the Black Lives Matter movement. What's going on? Seriously, come out.
There was stuff
say what your colors are. What do you really believe in here?
No, there was infiltration during the 2016 campaign. I mean, there were alt-right supporters that were showing up at anti-Trump rallies with rape Melania signs and that kind of stuff to obviously give a bad rap to these folks, while these signs appear on CNN.
Yeah, no, I think I didn't know about that actually. Yeah. I didn't know about in 2016 guys like Scott Fulwell on our side trying to incite people at Trump primary rallies to help promote Trump.
Yeah.
During the primary because they thought that was the only candidate Hillary could beat. So I mean, there's a little bit of this on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I sound like Trump here.
Yeah, what the hell, Paul?
In this day, now that the election's over and fascism won, the vast majority of American voters, I'll say, did not mean to vote for that, which means a certain level of Trump supporters, probably at least a quarter of them, did not mean to vote for fascism.
Well, his approval rating is 34%, according to all the recent polls. He's got this baseline now of low 30s in support. And who are those 30 to 34%? These are the people that he's afraid to call out, because he knows that if he calls those guys out and they abandon him, well, then what's next? Is the approval rating drop to the 20s because they're going to abandon him? He knows that he got elected with the support of these folks, with the David Dukes of the world and all their minions.
Do you think the David Dukes of the world are 30%?
I don't know what they are. I just know that I think they're more than we thought that they were before this last election. I don't think most people thought they were as powerful as they were. That they made up enough of the population.
There's no question.
Make a difference.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what they actually amount to.
Well, I think that let's just say it's 34%. That's the most recent poll I've seen, and a good chunk of that is these folks that align with that ideology, this alt-right mentality. And then the others are just loyalist Republicans who are tribalist in their approach to politics, and it's us versus them, and my guy can do no wrong, and the other side can do all wrong. And
right. Well, I also think there's that whole religious conservative thing where
sure,
you have religious political extremists, where you have people who probably believe in a fairer system, a fairer world, but some religious groups have gotten them into a viewpoint. I mean, not unlike what we see in some of the countries with Sharia law, for instance, where you see people get kind of whooped into some sort of frenzy. That
I think observing the behavior of the Christian right, I guess for one example, I think if he's able to get them Supreme Court nominees and pass legislation that's favorable to them, I think that's good enough.
Right,
for them.
They want to see abortion banned.
Right. I mean, I don't think they care about a lot of this other stuff that he's talking about.
So what will they do? There's a pretty good chance that Roe v. Wade will get overturned.
We'll see. I think
what will they do after that?
A lot of that depends on Anthony Kennedy and how long he's going to stick around. Apparently, he's sticking around at least another year.
Okay.
Based on all reports, but
you need 3 more years for that. And
maybe.
You also have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's not exactly well.
We need to we should probably publish an address in DC for her where people can send all their best vitamins and maybe healthy recipes,
Supreme Court term limits or something like that. She should have bowed out when Obama was. There should be some rule that you have to bow out when your same party president is in. But
I don't think, like everybody else, I think she was probably surprised that she wouldn't.
She said she'd move to New Zealand if Trump won. He did.
Yeah.
She's not. We really don't want her moving to New Zealand.
No, please don't.
But yeah, I mean, this is I know that people in Planned Parenthood are talking about this Roe v. Wade being.
So what's the what is the contingency plan? I guess it goes back to the states, right? So then the fight, although it's already been kind of happening that way,
right?
Because there's a lot of activity at the state level.
The restrictions are so high now.
Well, because the Republicans controlling as many state legislatures as they do, like here in Wisconsin, they're laying the groundwork for. If and when the Supreme Court makes that decision that rolls back Roe v. Wade, then all the laws that are in place in the states that are currently being challenged in the federal court because they conflict with the Roe v. Wade decision, that all becomes moot, and then it all goes back to whatever your state legislature decides.
Not even I understand that this is a very controversial issue or what have you. But what will obviously happen is really horrible things.
Yes.
And ugly things.
We're going to have to refight the same battles that happened a generation or two ago. Mm-hmm. And relearn the lessons that obviously not enough of us learned the first time.
Right.
This is really frustrating.
Well,
but that's what
I'm talking like, your wife has a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you have to do an investigation.
You're all under subject criminal investigation. Even stuff that people who would consider themselves very pro-life would not tolerate.
Yeah.
The people that think that this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering what they'll really think.
You're right. Maybe the fallout from something like that is, if it comes to that point, unfortunately, it's one of those be careful what you wish for situations where people are all gung-ho about being quote-unquote pro-life, and then all of a sudden, they're their daughter has miscarriage, and all of a sudden the evidence, unfortunately, puts them into question, and then there's a whole to do. They got to get an attorney. They got to go to court. It's a whole.
As Feingold used to say, keep the government out of the bedroom.
There you go.
Or the doctor's office, for that matter. Yeah. Really, I mean, other than make sure that people can get to the doctor's office. Yeah. That's what the government ought to do, is make sure everybody can sleep in a bedroom, and then make sure everybody can go to a doctor's office.
Those seem to be two good priorities. I would be fully supportive of that campaign.
The other part would be eat a little bit.
Yes.
Paul Wellstone, the late Senator Wellstone, used to say, kitchen table issues.
Yeah.
Talk to me about good health care, a good education, and a good job. If you want to talk about anything else, you're missing the point.
Sounds like the foundation for a good gubernatorial campaign. Do we have any news on that front here in the great state of Wisconsin?
So I see Walker is totally vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, he's always been underwater.
He just got another really bad poll. The Foxconn thing seems to be backfiring.
Yeah.
A little bit, at least.
I don't know how that's all going to play out. I think they thought it was going to be more popular off the bat than it
looks like a desperation move when you start looking at the price tag, which is way beyond any public subsidy anybody's ever seen.
Yeah, at least here in Wisconsin. But it's the Foxconn thing is definitely, it's not sailing through the legislature. It's definitely
it'll win.
There's going to be some serious arm twisting. Now, what the fallout is from that, I don't know, because I still think...
you've got a 64-35 Republican majority in the Assembly, 1913 in the Senate, mostly because of gerrymandering. I mean, the electoral results are much closer. What is it, 53-47, I think, last year, toward the Republicans in the legislature, and that now they have like 67% of the seats, or something ridiculous like that.
It's so skewed, it's ridiculous.
53% gets you 67% when you gerrymander the fuck out of a place.
But when you're talking about the governor's race, obviously that's a winner-take-all scenario. So.
Yeah, the gerrymandering will not help Scott Walker.
No. So I'm thinking about voters upstate, like in Dave Obie's old district. And
which is like Wausau through Superior.
Yeah. I mean, what the fuck do those people care about Foxconn? I mean, why do they want their tax dollars to go fund that a Chinese company to hire some people from Illinois?
They said, maybe we'll put a plant in Madison. I don't think it's close enough.
I think that's a lot of bullshit right there.
Even if they did, the big
I think that's Paul Soglin trying to get people to come.
Yeah, right.
trying to piggyback on that. But,
how many? Let's name all the Democrats we can think of that say they're running for governor. So we got Soglin, Bob Harlow,
Kathy Vinehouse.
She
announced?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. She filed the papers anyway. That's the first one I could think of that's like even remotely legitimate. Dana Walks, that would be another one.
Mike McCabe.
He has a following. Who else? Oh, Andy Gronick. Gronick.
I think that's it.
Gronick's rich, so...
Tim Cullen's not running, right?
He's out.
He's not. He's out, so okay. Soglin is kind of toying with the idea.
Yeah, well, then
I don't know
Matt Flynn has talked about
Matt Flynn is another one. But as we talked about before the show, but like maybe Gronick and Matt Flynn may be going after the same pool of support, so maybe one of them runs out.
Right. Malin Mitchell's talked about it. We'll see. We've got... I
think that covers it.
Yeah. At any rate, looks like dead air time. We'd probably get this all cut off. So I think we should wrap this one up. We don't have a real spicy one today. We had the Alabama primaries for Senate. We assume that would go to the right.
Yeah.
I think we're now in agreement that Trump's got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, not just in the election. The problem I have is that you're stuck with Pence then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at this point, could you actually do it where you impeach Trump, then Pence, before they appoint a vice president that gets the majority vote?
I mean,
and then you get actually Speaker of the House, which in theory could be Nancy Pelosi or a Democrat if it's after the 2018 election.
I don't see that. It's a long shot that impeachment could even happen because it has to go through both the House and the Senate, and the chances are they're not going to take the Senate next year.
He's seditious.
So let's assume you can get.
He's seditious against what the Civil War was about.
So let's assume you can actually accomplish impeaching Trump. Now, I think it's such a long shot that if you're able to get Trump impeached, I think it's such a long shot at that point to go after Pence, because I think there would be we will have been fighting this whole battle as a country for several years. I think there would be a lot of. I think at that point the Republicans would abandon Trump for one thing, and they would rally behind Pence, and they would be like, "Okay, the president
has been there and waiting the whole time.
And they'll find ways to exonerate him from the sins of the president, and they'll say, "No, look, we need to rally behind him. The country has a job to do. We've got big issues. We've got North Korea. Hopefully." That whole situation ends up blowing up at that point.
Well, all that's true. I just wonder if there's a way.
I mean, you have to keep in mind, impeachment is a political exercise, and it's not just strictly like a legal exercise. And there's a lot of factors that go into momentum. I mean, we witnessed it not long ago. I mean, we all remember how the Clinton impeachment thing played out.
Did he violate the law? Lying under oath? Yeah, of course he did.
Sure.
But was he convicted? No, because nobody really thought that was that important of a violation.
It didn't rise to the level of what we're dealing with today, for one thing.
Nothing close to it.
On that note.
This really was a very bad day for America, unfortunately. And I am proud to call myself an American, but I'm so embarrassed by my leadership. I don't know what. I'm almost speechless.
The good thing is we're not alone, and I think the majority of this country is 100% behind that sentiment. So,
rise up, resist, and forward.
Forward, everybody.